Right, so welcome to this class again today. And yesterday we looked at how we can connect to a database and how we can write a simple code like this to connect our backend server to our database. And we started by following these simple steps where we first created a MongoDB cluster account. Then we created a cluster, then we written a code to connect to database, and that was done. If I turn back to our code here, you can see that we have this section. Let me allow this guy. Oh, okay, someone just joined. So when you look at this section of code here, it connects our backend server to the database, and for you to connect you must have a connection URL which we have defined inside the env file. And when you look at this connection URL, it has a combination of some random strings, and then we have a password and the username, and then finally here we mention the database name where we are going to store our database, I mean our data. So we must have a database within a cluster. A cluster in this case is like a server. So in that server we have database. You can have several databases. Let's say you are having so many applications, so each application will have its own database on that server, and for our case we've called our database blockdb. All right, so when we run this and we save at least one uh, entity in the database, we hope that we will have a database created called blockdb. So that's this whole thing makes up the connection URL. So today what I want us to look at, let me close this one down, is to move to the next lesson, or on lesson 5, and look at the concept now of creating schemas. And before we can even look at the code, yes, Calvin's.
Uh, uh, Sir, I don't know if it is only my part because I can't see your presentation. What I see is the start recording page hiyo ya start virtual camera hiyo imestack hapo. It is not moving to the other presentations.
This is the
So I
interface.
don't know. Yes, so I don't know. It is only on my side.
Anyone to confirm whether my screen is clear? Thomas and Samuel. Let me stop let me stop sharing, and then can you see it now? For example, let me navigate back to code like this. Calvin,
Yes.
can you see it now?
I'm not seeing. I'm seeing the only the you are representing the writings and I can't see your navigations to the code. But let me check. Maybe my internet is not so strong.
Alright, so let me stop sharing and then share again. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. What
Uh,
is happening?
your network must be slow. Just give it some
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Navigate around. Calvins, can you now see, or it is still not visible on your end?
It is not still, it is not visible, but I can hear your voice, though the screen I'm not seeing well.
Okay, Samuel, can you see my screen? Like, can you see my code, the screen I am in currently?
Yes, I'm seeing.
Okay, so maybe Calvin's your network or something, but nevertheless, the class still recorded. So I believe this record will capture the screen later. All right, Winfred, welcome to the meeting. We just started. We have not even started the new lesson. So what I want us to look at today is this lesson 6, creating a schema. And before we can even go to the details of writing the code, we want to understand some key terms about MongoDB. Yesterday I had given an assignment to do some research on MongoDB so that you can understand some concepts around MongoDB, and that's what I want us to clarify today. So you have a whole database server. Then within the database server, we have something called the schema. So the schema is a way of modeling or designing, and it defines the structure of a document in a collection. And so what's a document and what's a collection? So a collection is a group of documents, and a document is a single record in MongoDB. So take an example of a table. So once you have a table, normally our data is going to be stored in form of tables inside a database. So we might have the information about students being stored in a different table. We might have information about maybe posts being stored in a different table called posts, and therefore that table is what we are calling it the collection. So when you go within a table or within a collection, you will see there are rows. So one particular row with one particular information about one entity is what we are calling it a document. So a document is like a single record in a MongoDB stored as a JSON format. And then the schema now is a way when you are doing your programming for you to create those collections or to create those tables inside the database. You use the analogy of or the analogy of a schema. So the schema will define the structure of that document or of that table. And when we say structure, it means how many columns is the table going to have. Maybe it is going to have 4 columns, and maybe what are the names of those columns. Maybe uh, if we talk about students data, for example, we might have a column called student name, a column called student ID, a column called student admission number, and all such kind of columns. And in each column you define the data type that is going to be stored in that column. So maybe you are saying that in the column of a name we are going to store strings because names are in form of strings. In the column of IDs, maybe we are going to store numbers. All right, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to define the structure and the layout of the collection, and trying to define what kind of data is going to be stored in this collection. So we use a schema to model that. Then we have the concept of model. So a model is a wrap around the schema, and it provides us an interface for interacting with a collection. For example, you might want to perform some CRUD operation. What do we mean by CRUD? CRUD in full means create, read, update, and delete. So you realize that when you're working with your database, or when you are trying to manipulate the data in the database, it is either you are creating a new record, or you are fetching some record which is already saved or which is already created, or you are updating some record which is already existing, or you want to delete some record which is already existing. So these are the 4 key operations that you will always perform on your stored data, and we summarize it in short using the CRUD abbreviation. So this operation could be you're creating something, you are fetching something, you are updating something, you are deleting something. All right. So when you go to the database that we created yesterday, when you go to your MongoDB cluster account, you will see that you have this cluster. So a cluster is like um, it's like a server. When you create an account on Mongo Cloud will give you one cluster for free. They will not charge you anything, and they give you a storage of up to 512 megabytes. So within this space, you can now create databases. You see, when you click on create here, it asks you, now here we are creating a new cluster. Let's go back. So within the cluster itself, you can now browse the collection. So here we are browsing the tables that are in this. If I click on browse collections, you're going to see that you see now we have one database called sample mflix. This is the database that is there by default, and within this database, you see, when I collapse it, when I uncollapse it, we have within this database we have many collections. So you can see we have a users collection, creators collection, sessions collection, movies collection. So these are like tables. So the movies collection or a movies table, it stores only information about the movies. The users collection, it stores all information about the users. All right. So when I click on this collection called users, for example, you see it is loading the documents. So the documents now are the actual data within that collection. So you can see now here we have one user called with the ID. This is the ID and this is the name. So it has around 20 results. So when you click next, you will see the next user is fetched here. Username is Samuel Ari. Then you click next. So you can, so this particular information, you can see you can even scroll down. So this information is what we are, this particular row is like this one user, and this another user, and this is another user. So this row is what we are calling it a document. A document. So you could say a collection has many documents. So the first thing is that we have a cluster which has many databases. A database like this one has many collections, and each collection has many documents. Alright, it has many documents. So this is key to understand before even going to the code. Alright, so now for us to be able to create a collection like this from our code, you'll have to go to your code and write some code that will automatically create the collections that you want to create. So if for a case we are developing social media platform, which is in this case we are developing a blog post platform, so we will need a different database to store information about our application, about that blog post. So we will need to create another different database. So you can create it manually here. You see this, create a database, or you can write a code within your backend server that will now create this particular database called BlogDB. So at the end, we expect to have another database below here called BlogDB, and within that BlogDB, we're going to have collections, maybe users collection, posts collection, comments collection, likes collection, and all the other collections, which in this case represent tables. And then in each of those collections, we are going to store the actual data which is now the documents. All right, so that's what we mean by this theoretical concept here. If you have a question, maybe you can ask before we can proceed to the next concept, so that we can now start writing the code. Any questions so far?